Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So I have finally reached max level. I finally reached 120. And I wanted to make a state of 4 restoration. That's the spec I've played the most so far. Played all 3 specs. Played restoration the most. So. Did a bit of dungeon grinding as well as some DPS in between dungeons, trying to finish quest chains, things like that. So have a couple different perspectives to go by as I go over things. So if we go to the spell book, we got Earth Elemental added. This was a trying to think. I think this was an elemental only in Legion. I know both elemental and enhancement had it at one time. I think they took it away from enhancement, if I remember correctly. This makes a night and day difference trying to DPS as restoration. You're not really set up for DPS. They do give you a few DPS abilities, of course, so you're not completely defenseless. Earth Elemental goes a long way to helping, so I'm fine with the 5-minute cooldown. It saved me from dying a few times because it does taunt the Earth Elemental, taunt whatever it's attacking. I don't think the Fire Elemental does. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does. I've always used and thought of Earth Elemental as the taunt elemental. I think Fire Elemental, I want to say, does AoE damage. I could be wrong. I digress. Night and day difference trying to DPS as with this. DPSing is this is kind of one reason why I wanted to make a state of 4 for this. It's not bad. I mean, you have Flame Shock and Lava Burst. I mean, those are your bread and butter. It's a little slow. I would say if you know you're going to be questing in an area, if you're just waiting in queue for a dungeon, which I was most of the time, and you just want to do, if you just don't want to be standing around doing nothing and you want to just work on some quests to get your, get the storyline done, that's fine. You can do it with this in most cases. Areas where there's a lot of mobs, where there's a chance you're going to pull a lot of mobs, I would not recommend using this. If you did, I would go very carefully. If you get too many things on you, even if you put Earth Shield on yourself, you put Riptide, all that, you just don't have the DPS output to deal with a large amount of mobs, and I ran into that here and there, not too often, but there are some places where mobs are wandering around, or they're just really close together. So if you pull one, you end up pulling maybe 1 or 2 others, and then you have 5, 6 things on you, and that's where I said Earth Elemental has saved me. If you can summon it and get, I try to keep Flame Shock up, try to spam Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning doesn't do a lot of damage. I would like to see another AoE. I think that would help in some fashion. Either another AoE or give Lava Burst 2 charges, as it does on the other 2 specs. I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure there's a talent you can get on one or both of those that does. So yeah, other than that, that was pretty much it. So if we go over the talents, you may notice a couple things. We got Unleash Life back. Not only did we get Unleash Life back, we got Earth Shield back. Unleash Life was removed completely in Legion. Earth Shield was made a PvP talent. Didn't play Shaman much in PvP. What little bit I didn't really see how this worked. Some things they made PvP talents I could understand. I could see the reasoning why, this less so. So I took these by default. I think they're about the best in these tiers. So the problem I was having in dungeons was running out of mana. At best, I was about 1/4, half my mana at any given time at best. I eventually realized that I needed to swap out Healing Surge for Healing Wave, which has a very... Oh no, it does have a longer cast time. Yeah, it has the same as healing. I don't know what I was looking at earlier. I was using Healing Surge because it had the quicker cast time. This just used too much mana. I found myself in groups where people just didn't know what to do. Shrine of the Storm was probably the worst one. A Freehold would probably be next. The other two were fine. They just had a lot of trash, so you were just if you pulled too much at one time, you either someone would die, the tank would die, or the group would wipe. So I starting out, I was running completely out of mana. And then I thought I had figured out, I had Earth Shield and Riptide on the tank. I was keeping Healing Stream Totem and Healing Rain on cooldown whenever appropriate. Healing Rain, it's a little more difficult if people are running around at different times. And around 115, little below 115, little above 115, that worked. As I got closer to 120, um, that stopped working. So I played around with some of these talents, and I didn't really think it was a talent problem. Um, only 3 of these actually directly affect, well, 4. 4 of these directly affect healing. And I was pretty sure those were I had confidence in the talents I had chosen. Um, these aren't new spells. I've used these for most of the time I've played Shaman. And then I was just kind of playing around. I normally don't use, most healing classes have 2 direct heal, single target heals. One that's cheaper and a slower cast, and one that is more expensive and a faster cast. And I always just use the faster cast because you don't really use a single target heal that often, generally speaking. Occasionally, maybe just to top the tank off, but that's usually it. You don't spam a single target heal. At least I don't. My biggest complaint, and I really think it's a drawback, is the fact that Riptide only has 1 charge now. And you can't, with the PvP talent, you can get 1 additional charge. However, that does not work in a instance, so it won't work in dungeons and raids. You can't talent another charge on, and I think that's a big drawback. I kept wanting to. I'm still used, even closer I got to 120. I was still in the habit of Riptide having 2-3 charges and being able to spam it. And that, I think, is a drawback. I found myself hitting it more often than not when it was on cooldown. So then I said, okay, so I would, either use a single target heal or I would use chain heal. At first I thought I was spamming chain heal too much. I probably have been overusing it here and there. I don't think that was the problem, though. I think it seemed like as soon as I swapped out Healing Surge for Healing Wave, my mana problem all but went away. I still, on some fights, you still have to be careful, of course. I had below 100k leveling, so that was probably part of it. The other thing I noticed was my mastery. My mastery early on was between 50 and 70%. And as I got closer to 120, keeping in mind I was swapping gear out and things like that, it fell below 50%. And I think that was also to contribute. As I got a few pieces of gear that had mastery on it and got it up around 50%, 50, 51%. I was noticing a difference after that. And it was only a difference of about 5%. I was like in the higher 40% range. So it wasn't, it was within 5%. And just getting it above 50 seemed to make a noticeable difference, I would say. Which makes sense with what the Restoration Mastery does. So, yeah. So I think Unleash Life and Earth Shield are good here. I tried taking Unit Dilute, yeah. Unit Dilute, yeah. Every third healing wave or healing surge, you cast heals for an additional 50%. So this is what I was thinking. At first I misread it. I thought it was chain heal and healing surge for some reason. Don't ask me why. And I think I forgot I had healing wave, so my mind substituted. Yeah, or these icons look almost identical. So I think that was part of the problem as well. So I thought, oh, okay, it's kind of like Unleash Life. Now, Unleash Life doesn't work exactly how I remember it. I remember it working similar to the way that Monk's Thunder Focus Tea worked at one point, where you'd hit Unleash Life and you'd get a buff. And then either your next chain heal or your next single target heal would do something. The way it works now, it heals for an amount itself and increases the effect of the shaman's next direct heal by 45%. The fact that it only works on a direct heal is good. However, I think it's a bit of a drawback because when I wanted to use it was with chain heal. And I kept thinking that over and over again. So either I'm completely getting this confused with something else, and I don't think I am. Because this was the character that had the legendary ring in Warlords. And I had to figure out how to do the Archimon fight on normal so I could pug to get my ring upgrade. So I'm pretty sure, and that's the last time I would have used Unleash Life. Was in a situation like that. And I remember there was a specific rotation you had to go through with all, I think there were like 4 phases to that fight that you had to go through with each phase. There was a time to use Spirit Link Totem, to use Unleashed Life, everything had a purpose in that fight as I remember. So it's good. The positive thing I will say about this, the target that this heals and the target that gets the benefit of the direct heal do not have to be the same target. Meaning, I can... So you do have to be careful who you have targeted when you hit this, because whoever you have targeted, that's who gets the healing. It doesn't matter after that point, it doesn't matter who you target for the direct heal. As long as it's a direct heal, they'll get the 40% increased healing. So that's kind of nice. I didn't realize that right off. And then I was in a couple dungeons, and I thought it still worked like a buff. You hit it, and it put like a buff on you, and you had so long to use it, or it would just go away. And then I kind of noticed things a couple times, and I was like, wait, so this doesn't have to be used on the same target. So that I like. 5, 5,600 is not a bad amount. So I said all that to say, so I was thinking when this said every third healing wave or healing surge, you cast heals for an additional 50%. So I'm thinking, so I'm looking down here at healing wave. So it's 50%. So it's 4,000. So it's almost as much as Unleash Life. This would be 3,000. So almost 3,000. Yeah, it's almost 2,000. We'll just say, just to round it off. So I'm thinking it works similar to an Unleashed Life without the cooldown. And it didn't work bad. It didn't work as well as I would have liked. I didn't use this very long. And then I switched everything back to the way I had it and just kept I originally switched everything back the way I had it, and then I said, well, let me just take out. Then I noticed, okay, so healing surge seems to be the problem, because that's when I noticed my mana going down, was when I was spamming this, which makes sense. It costs 4,000 mana, whereas this cost 1,800. So I started using Healing Wave, just tack this on the end, and I don't like this. I think it's too slow. However, I don't have, like I said, when I started using Healing Wave, my mana issue was all but resolved. So you do have to be, I kind of left this here just on the end, just in case a tank does something foolish and pulls too much. It is a good emergency heal. I'd like to be able to use this just as my main go-to single target heal. I'll play around now that I'm at max level. See if I can use it or if I just need to stay with Healing Wave. But for the time being, I'm willing to give Healing Wave a try. So my only complaint is the cast time. So Torrent, I believe, was an artifact ability, I want to say. Increases the initial heal of Riptide by 30%. I was very... if this had more than one charge, I would say Torrent would probably be the way to go. Just forget Unleashed Life altogether. It's not, and it has a 6-second cooldown, so this I would rather have Unleashed Life. Earth Shield, of course, your default here, works, as far as I can tell, just like it did before. It puts 9 charges on, heals, increases healing done to the target, and heals them every time that they take damage. So, Deluge, Chain Heal, heals for an additional 20% on targets within your healing range or affected by your Riptide. Again, if I remember using this in the past when it was, I think it was like in the level 90 tier. I think it was where Downpour was. Yeah. If one, Healing Rain is kind of situational ability, people can run out of it, or you can cast it, and in the time it takes you to cast it, the group has moved on to another mob, or they've moved out of it, or something. You kind of have to know people are going to be in one place for a few seconds, and that can be tricky to do in an instance. Again, if Riptide had more than one charge, I would still probably pick Earth Shield. This would probably be a close second, though. Echo of the Element, Riptide, Healing Stream Totem, and the Lava Burst now have 2 charges. Effects that reset their cooldown will instead grant 1 charge. So this goes back to I will admit I had forgotten this affects Riptide. I remember it affected Lava Burst. I forgot that it affected Riptide. I've used this in the past. Again, though, it's that problem of you have 2 things on one tier. I can't see serious healers not taking Earth's Shield. Now, for PvP, if I really wanted to get into PvP, sure, yeah, I could see taking Echo of the Elements. Because Earth Shield really, I don't think it really works well in PvP. So I may do that just to play around. That would give me 3 charges with my PvP talents. So maybe that was more their thinking, was we just wanted you to have kind of a PvE and a PvP option. I hate that I can't take this because of Earth Shield, though. So, yeah. So I would say Earth Shield's probably the default, and then it's probably a toss-up between these 2, depending on what you were doing exactly, and how your playstyle was. Some people might not. I could see in certain situations people not wanting to deal with Earth Shield, because you do have to stay on top of it. Those 9 charges will go down fairly quickly in certain situations. Yeah. Spirit Wolf. When transformed into a Ghost Wolf, you gain 5% increased speed and damage reduced every 1 second, stacking up 4 times. So, I think probably the best. Static. Don't really like Earth Grab Totem. It's Earth Grab Totem and Roots. The Druid ability Roots. I don't. Stuns, I'm fine. I can figure out how to use them. Roots are a different thing for me. It's as odd as it sounds. They're very similar. A stun and a root is very similar. Roots, though, I feel like I have trouble coordinating kind of how to use them. You do use. I have been using Capacitor Totem a lot to stun trash mobs and things of that nature. That can help you in your healing. So I could see reduces the cooldown. For each enemy, it stuns up to a maximum reduction of 20 seconds. So I could see static charge being good. If you wanted to take something else, my second choice would probably be static charge, because of how often I use Capacitor Totem now. So, Ancestral Vigor. Targets you heal with Healing Wave, Healing Surge, Chain Heal, or Riptide's initial heal. gain 10% increased health for 10 seconds. So I would say definitely the default because it helps the group. Earthen Wall Totem, I just don't think it only absorbs 1,200 from each attack against allies within 10 yards of the totem is redirected to the totem. So it's not, that's not actually a lot. Ancestral Protection Totem. Summons a totem at the target location for 30 seconds. Allies within 20 yards of the totem gain 10% increased health. If the ally dies, the totem will be consumed to allow them to reincarnate with 20% health and mana. So I can see this being good in raids. I still would wonder if Ancestral Vigor is still better, though. Just because you have several ways of getting the effect to work. You don't have to spam one. It doesn't just work with one button. You don't have to spam one button. If I use Chain Heal, it's working. If I use Riptide, it's working. I mean, it's, yeah. This is what I like in a passive. So this is, target location abilities I'm iffy on at best. I like the idea of somebody being able to reincarnate themselves. How much am I losing from Ancestral Vigor by taking Protection Totem? I think would be the question there. Earthen Wall, in my opinion, I wouldn't say this is good. Just because it has more health itself than damage it actually redirects, if I'm reading this correctly. So, yeah. Graceful Spirit. I just took this by default. I don't really use Spirit Walker's Grace enough to justify taking this. You do get a bit of a movement speed increase. I could see taking Nature's Guardian. I think these two are about equal. Windrush Totem, again, it's a target location ability. All it does is a speed increase. So I've seen Shaman take this, and it's nice when they do. It's 2-minute cooldown for a speed increase, basically. When I can have a reduced cooldown and a movement speed increase to keep healing. And my job is to heal. So I like the idea of Windrush. It's just kind of a strange talent. Definitely not the strangest totem that's been in game. Just kind of a strange talent. So, yeah. Flash Flood. When you consume tidal waves, the cast time of your next heal is reduced by 20%. I played around with Downpour in beta. I have enough AoE abilities already. I have 3. I have Chain Heal, Healing Rain, and healing type totem. And you could even count Ascendance and Spirit Link totem if you wanted to. So another ability to use. I mean, it worked okay. The cooldown increases by 5 seconds for each target effectively healed. So yeah, not bad. I have enough abilities. I mean, my command bar is literally full. So I don't feel like I need this. I don't feel like it adds anything. So Flash Flood works fine. Cloudburst Totem, I tried to use this in Warlords. I tried so hard over and over and over again. I could never figure out how to get this to work. Again, it's a coordination thing this is just beyond me. And then it replaces Healing Stream Totem now. I'm like, okay. It summons a totem at your feet for 15 seconds that collects power from all of your healing spells. When the totem expires or dies, the stored power is released, healing all injured allies within 40 yards for 30% of all healing done while it was active, divided evenly among targets. Casting the spell a second time recalls the totem and releases the healing. So there were two problems I had with this. I could see this being good in raids. One, I could never seem to get enough healing stored, it seemed like. And two, same problem that you have with Healing Rain. People don't stay in one spot long enough to actually get the benefit if you can get the healing stored up enough to be worthwhile. So I would rather have Healing Stream Totem. This might not look like much, but this is the backbone of your healing as a restoration shaman. So while you're, you keep this on cooldown, and then you go through your rotation of Riptide and Earthshield and Pain Heal, Healing Raid, what have you, whatever you're, whatever appropriately you're doing in the situation. And all the while, Healing Stream Totem is pulsing every 1.9 seconds for 15 seconds. So yeah, it's out for half of its cooldown, and its cooldown's only 30 seconds. So not too bad. And then this is reducing the cast time of your next heal. So yeah, not too bad. If you can use Cloudburst Totem, more power to you, by all means. By all means, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just not coordinated enough to use it. Downpour, like I said, I have enough abilities. I did not put this down here. This is what my artifact turned into. By the way, just in case you were curious, this is the only character that my artifact ability turned into something else. And I don't know if that's just a glitch or if they were just trying to tell me something. Yeah. And then Ascendance, which I think is the default for a lot of Shaman in all specs. So, had High Tide. I had High Tide when I was PvPing at the end of Legion. Ascendance works better. You can, with using Healing Wave or Healing Surge, either one. Healing Surge, you have a mana cost. Healing Wave, you have a cast time. So anything you heal is distributing that healing to everyone. So this is kind of what I use when when I'm trying to save, when I'm trying to save mana and I'm trying to save my other cooldowns, your healing tide totems, your big heal, your emergency heal. I will use this at the beginning of some fights if everyone's taking a lot of damage, rather than just trying to spam chain heal and all of that. Just pop Ascendance, heal one person, that heals everybody else. You kind of get back on an even. You kind of get everybody's health back up to where it is, so you kind of get back on an even kilter again, so you can go back through your normal rotation. So I use this, or I've begun using this to kind of help save mana. And a 3-minute cooldown for what it does is not it's not terrible. This has stayed pretty well consistent in it being worthwhile. When I was playing around with trying to see if something, trying to swap out Unleash Life for something else, I switched to High Tide, and I just don't think it's in PvP. I just wasn't using Ascendance. No sooner than I would pop it, somebody would kill me. So I just didn't see the benefit, or I didn't feel like I was getting value out of it. So I went with High Tide because I was spamming Chain Heal, as you do. And I just don't think it has much of a benefit in PvE. Overall, Ascendance is probably going to be your default choice, unless for some reason you want one of the others. Wellspring creates a surge of water that flows forward, healing friendly targets in a wide arc in front of you. So again, two things. One, I already have enough abilities, so kind of the same thing as Downpour. And two, it only heals in front of you. I don't like spells, generally speaking, most of the time, that only work with things in front of you. Because again, much like with Healing Rain, you don't know that people are always going to stay in front of you. There's a lot of times in a dungeon group, you try to stay, usually the healer's going to be in the very back, or I'm generally in the very back. Tanks up front, DPS is in the middle. That's generally how you do it most of the time. There will always be one DPS for whatever reason, and usually it's a range class that will insist on being like one step behind you for whatever reason. So anytime you try to use like Chain Heal or something else, if they're so far back, it's not going to bounce to them. And then they're sitting there wondering why they're not getting healed. And that's fine. So I have a hard enough time trying to get Chain Heal to bounce, let alone trying to get something that goes to an arc in front of me. It's not a bad ability. I did play with this on beta. I took this and Downpour just to play around. It's not a bad ability. It's just, I guess you could say it's a situational ability if you wanted to classify it as something. So I could see High Tide being good in raids. I could see this Wellspring being good in raids. I'm not saying these are bad. To me, I think the benefit of Ascendance far outweighs these two. So much like Healing Tide Totem, Ascendance can be your big emergency. And as I said, it works well if you're trying to conserve your mana. So there you go. So with the exception of me forgetting what Echo of the Elements does, which shame on me because I should have known. This hasn't changed in like several expansions now. Yeah. So there you go. Not too bad. I was a little disappointed that first two talents, directly impact your healing. The next three do not. They're utility abilities, basically. And then the last two do as well. It just struck me as a bit strange. So, and I still, maybe I'm just being nostalgic. I rely a lot on Earthshield and healing. This is where I think the old talent system of points is better than this, because depending on where these were, I could get Earthshield and then spec into Echo of the Elements. And you can't do that. That was also kind of the nice thing with some legendaries, even though they didn't work in PvP. They would pick a talent, so you would get two of these talents. That's probably my biggest complaint, is you'll end up with two things that I know I've taken Echo of the Elements by default several times on several different specs, because it's worth Lava Burst having two charges. Healing Stream Totem having two charges was a bit strange. That's why I put it in place of Earthshield. Somehow in my mind at that time, I was thinking, oh, this will substitute. I can work this into the rotation. It didn't work bad, just was a bit strange. Riptide having, 2-3 charges, though, as I said, with Rippling Waters in PvP is I'd like to have two charges with this. However, I don't think it would be worth having two charges of Riptide, losing Earthshield, and having to heal the tank more. Thinking in like a dungeon group. I don't think the benefits, and I really don't, at max level, I'm hardly ever going to DPS now. Anything I do, I'm going to queue as a healer and be healing. So like I said, PvP, I could see taking this. I could see swapping this out for PvP from Earthshield, just because I don't like Earthshield in PvP. Other than that, to do like a dungeon, no. I think Earthshield's probably better. And rating, I would think the same thing, but I don't. I can only kind of suggest and theorize. I don't raid enough. I don't raid enough, and I don't raid enough where it counts in the higher modes to know for sure. So there you go, folks. There is the state of restoration. All in all, not bad. So, hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.